Hey, Jerry, I think we're going to have visitors.
Looks that way.
Whoa. What happened?
Where are we?
You're in the California 9 newsroom, and I'm Jerry Dunphy. Hi.
Oh, yeah, we know you, Mr. Dunphy.
Well, who's your friend?
My name is Jack Popejoy.
He's an expert on earthquakes. He and I are working together on a special news report on earthquakes.
So, what are your names?
I'm Trisha.
I'm Christopher. But the big question is, so how did we get here?
Easy. You just came through our magical news window.
Magical?
That's right. We use television magic to travel, and today we're going to use it to learn more about earthquakes.
Earthquakes, they're scary.
Well, the more you know about something, the less scary they are. So what if we bring in some friends and you won't be scared and we'll learn more about earthquakes? Who do you like?
How about Chip and Dale?
All right, Chip and Dale it is.
This is all the way cool! Oh, Dad! This is neat, man.
So let's find out about earthquakes. In fact, let's take a look at what we've been working on.
The Earth is shaped very much like this ball you were chasing. Inside the Earth, it's very hot. But of course, it's much cooler up here on the surface where we live, called the crust. In fact, the crust is kind of like the skin that cools on the top of hot chocolate. These big sections of cooler skin on the Earth are called plates, and they float very, very slowly on the hot liquid underneath. They only move about as fast as your fingernails grow, but they do slowly bump into each other.
Do you know how fast your fingernails grow?
No, but I know how fast they get dirty.
About 5 centimeters, or about 2 inches a year. And that's about how fast these plates move, up to 2 inches per year.
The soil we live on sits on top of these plates, kind of like a throw rug on top of the floor. And you know how a throw rug sometimes bunches up? Well, rocks and soil bunch up in some places to form mountains. And what causes those mountains?
Earthquakes?
Right, earthquakes. A lot of our biggest mountains came from earthquakes. Have you ever heard of the San Andreas Fault?
What's that?
Didn't that stop the World Series in Candlestick Park?
Right again, an earthquake fault did. You see, the San Andreas Fault is where the North American plate and the Pacific plate come together. Now, if you ever go up in an airplane and fly over California, you can see where the San Andreas Fault runs under California for hundreds of miles.
And when that earthquake shook the San Francisco Bay Area in October of 1989, the Santa Cruz Mountains actually grew 4 feet taller and slid more than 6 feet closer to Alaska.
Really?
Yeah, it really did. But it's not just the San Andreas Fault that causes earthquakes. We know of more than 100 other faults under California. And more being discovered all the time, so you have to be prepared everywhere. Now, here's something I bet you've never seen before. When the rock slips several miles underground, it's almost like the ground is made up of springs. In fact, in a really big earthquake, you can actually see ripples in the ground springing off in all directions. And if you were standing right above where the rock slipped, you'd be bounced straight up, like on a trampoline. For anyone further away, the ground motion is more sideways.
Let's use our magical news window to go on an adventure.
Adventure? We like adventures.
So where are we going?
Can we take Chip and Dale?
Sure, we're going to Ventura, about 50 miles up the coast from Los Angeles, and everybody can come.
Where are we? How do you do that?
That's just some video magic that we do. This place is called Red Mountain.
So what makes this an adventure?
Look closely. You notice anything different about this mountain?
No, it's just another mountain. No, wait. What are those? Are those notches? Yeah, they look like steps for a giant. How'd they get there?
Well, you may find it hard to believe, but storm waves from the ocean actually did that.
Waves? The ocean is right here in the mountains way over there.
That's right, but the waves still did it.
Cool! Who are you?
Well, let's say this is my mountain, and I'm here to answer all of your questions.
So why does this mountain look like stairs?
Well, Red Mountain used to be much, much lower. That notch way up there used to be down where the ocean is about 6,000 years ago, and the ocean ate away at that notch.
How do you know that?
There are actually bits of seashells up there that came from the ocean before a big earthquake pushed the whole mountain upward. The waves started eating away at the level where you see the next notch. Then another big earthquake about 600 years later pushed the whole mountain upward again, and the ocean waves cut another notch.
You know if the mountain's due for another big earthquake? For example, how often do these quakes happen under Red Mountain? When was the last one?
You can count 9 notches formed an average of 600 years apart, and the bottom one is about 1,800 years old. So the mountain may be overdue for another big earthquake to make it even taller. This is one of the fastest rising mountains in the whole world.
Wow, did earthquakes make all our mountains?
No, in fact, some mountains are volcanoes, like the Hawaiian Islands and Mount St. Helens in Washington.
In fact, Mount St. Helens back in 1980 blew its stack with ash and lava coming out of the top. But in general, it takes a long time and a lot of earthquakes to make our really tall mountains.
So, did you learn anything at Red Mountain?
Yeah, lots!
Good. Now, how about saying thanks to the lady that answered all your questions?
Thank you!
Come again, anytime.
Radical!
Okay, is everybody ready to head back now?
Ready.
Fun trip, a little bit cold.
But it was good.
Notches?
Yeah.
So, who is that lady at Red Mountain?
Well, that was Jan Smith, and in Ventura County, she's an expert on earthquake preparedness.
Mr. Dunphy, is it true that we could fall into the ocean?
Or get swallowed up by an earthquake?
Don't worry. That's not true. First of all, the earth doesn't open up and swallow anything, because the earth doesn't open up. Let's show you what we mean. Magical window. Now, these pictures of the 1989 earthquake are really just the beginning of a landslide. See how loose ground is slumping down on the left.
And second, California cannot slide into the ocean. There have been thousands and thousands of great earthquakes forming most of California's really big mountains, and California has never slid into the ocean. The San Andreas Fault slides sideways, not up and down.
So don't worry about those kinds of stories. They're just not true.
But in a big earthquake, the ground does bounce, and if everything isn't fastened down, it'll bounce too. Okay, shall we go, Jerry?
All right, sure.
Go where?
Well, how about experiencing an earthquake for yourselves? Would that be an adventure?
Yeah, but I don't want to get hurt.
You don't have to worry about that. We wouldn't let that happen. But we do think it's important that you experience an earthquake, so we're going to an earthquake simulator. And there are only a few of those in the whole world.
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right.
Oh boy,
I love
another
adventure.
invention. Good luck.
This kind of simulation will really make you understand.
How do they do this?
Okay, is everybody comfortable?
Ready.
Now look around. See how this bookcase has a wire in front of it? And this one over here doesn't. Also notice the dolls.
Now try to think how your room at home or school compares with this one. For example, do you have any books or pictures or toys overhead?
All right, everybody, get ready for an earthquake.
Let her rip. That wasn't so bad. Big deal.
It is a big deal. That was only a moderate earthquake, and look what happened.
The shelf that didn't have anything to hold the books couldn't handle the movement. Did you notice? What do you think would have happened if you were sitting underneath them?
We would get hurt.
Big deal. I could handle it.
But what if that same quake happened at your school?
But it didn't.
Maybe that could be arranged.
Wow, this place is a real mess.
Looked like everything moved. I think this would have hurt somebody if it fell on them.
Look at all this glass.
Be careful, don't pick any of that up. A lot of that wouldn't have happened if somebody had put a clear plastic coating on the window so that they wouldn't break out. Be careful, watch your step there.
What are you looking for, Jack?
Hazards. In fact, let's go on a hazard hunt to see what happened here and try to find ways to keep this kind of damage from happening again.
Yeah, these desks can move. I bet they bounced and slid during the earthquake.
You're right, certainly did, no doubt about it. What about pictures or other things hanging from the walls?
But I wasn't sitting underneath this one in an earthquake.
You're lucky you weren't.
Yes, unless these are anchored right to the wall, they'll bounce just like the desks did.
How would you prevent a hazard like this?
Well, you could take some string or some fishing line and just attach the frame right to the wall. Or, do you kids know what this sticky stuff is called?
Velcro.
You know, maybe teachers could take a day and have a project where they put Velcro on everything that would move, break, or hurt somebody.
Hey, how did this get way over here? Did it fly over here?
You know, it probably really did fly over here, but don't worry about the erasers. They wouldn't hurt you.
Look, Jack, these bookcases have cords across them, just like in the Quake simulator. You know what these are called? Bungee cords.
But it didn't help.
That's right. It helped keep the books inside the case, but it didn't do anything to keep the bookcase from falling. That can be very dangerous, but you know, we can easily prevent it by just bolting the top of the bookcase right to the wall.
Let's not forget about file cabinets and other heavy objects that can slide or tip over.
Yeah, cabinet doors could fly open and all kinds of things could slide and fall out and break if we don't guard against it.
Hey, what about the ceiling? Yeah. Radical! What are you doing here?
Well, you did ask a question, and I'm here to answer it. A lot of office and classroom ceilings have acoustical panels just like these. So they could come loose during an earthquake, and if they hit you, well, it could hurt you, but that's not going to happen. All right, if there's an earthquake, what do?
Go to the doorway.
It's too far away. You wouldn't have time, and there are too many people for one doorway. The door will probably be swinging, and that could hurt you. Plus, the floor and the doorway itself will be moving, and other things around the room could hit you too. So forget the doorway. What do you think you should do?
Hide.
Where?
Under the desk.
Absolutely. But there are tips to doing it right. What's important is protecting your body. Your head is first, then your spine. That's a bony part right down the middle of your back. Then your arms and your legs. You're right when you said to hide under the desk. You can also use anything else that's solid, sturdy, and creates a place for you to take cover.
What if all you have around you is a chair?
Why not? A chair is solid and sturdy. But what part of the body are you going to protect first?
My head.
Right. Now, when an earthquake starts, the best thing to do is what we call duck, cover, and hold.
What does that mean?
I'll show you. What you're going to do is you're going to duck, cover, and hold. You're going to get under your table. Hold on to the table leg with both hands very tightly. Close your eyes and put your eyes on your arm. During the shaking, you're going to stay in this position and not think about anything else that's going on in the room.
How do you stop moving if the desk isn't bolted to the floor?
If you hold on like this, you'll move with the desk, so you'll always have the protection of the desk over you. Once the shaking stops, stay under the desk until everything has stopped moving and get out from under the desk if you can. If you can't, wait until someone can come to help you. Try to be quiet and listen to directions from your teacher or some other adult, because they may want everyone to go outside.
I noticed you were always facing the same way with your back to the windows.
Exactly right. You always want to protect yourself from flying glass from the windows.
What about the glass from the light bulbs?
Some of them may break too, but the best way to protect yourself is like this. Head under the table, both hands shoulder high, keep your face off the floor. Concentrate on keeping your hands tight and your eyes inside your elbow.
When the ground stops shaking, then what do?
Go outside.
Probably not right away. You should wait until your teacher decides it's safe.
That's right. You know what always happens after a big earthquake?
People run around.
Only the people who don't know as much as you. No, after a big earthquake, there are always aftershocks. Whoops, there's a question from another school. Gotta go.
Wait a minute. What about aftershocks?
Well, I've felt plenty of aftershocks. They're just more little earthquakes while the ground takes some time to settle into its new position. But more things can slide around and fall and bounce during these aftershocks, so you have to be just as careful as during the earthquake. Then right after the earthquake, you should first make sure that you're okay, that you're not bleeding or have anything that hurts. And then very carefully look around you to see if there's anything broken that could hurt you or any people who need your help.
Do you know how to do first aid if somebody's hurt?
Well, I think so.
No, I never had that.
Everybody should learn first aid, and learn it again every couple of years. The Red Cross teaches first aid, the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts teach first aid, and fire stations have first aid classes. It's important, and not just for earthquakes.
Jerry's right. I learned first aid when I was a Boy Scout, and every time the Red Cross comes to where I work now, I take it again.
When do we get to go outside?
When the earthquakes and the aftershocks are mostly over with, and then when your teacher decides it's okay.
Where do we go?
Out to the playground?
Well, let's go take a look and see if it's a good place.
Is anybody thirsty?
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Everybody get what they wanted?
Yeah!
Good. Now, where do you guys think would be a good place for your class to go after an earthquake?
Where nothing can fall on you, like where we play baseball over there.
Well, that is one of several good places, but not everybody in the school can be in the same spot. There are just too many kids for that. That's why you and your teacher need to plan in advance where you're going to line up and call the roll.
Then what do we do?
Okay, let's say the earthquake is over and we've all come out of it fine. What kinds of things do you normally need, like medicines? For example, do you normally have to take pills, or do you get a shot? Or do you wear glasses? Or if you're like me, do you wear contact lenses?
Yeah, my brother has asthma.
You see, it might be smart to put extra medicine or contact lenses or anything else someplace you can get at them when the quake is over.
That could cost a lot of money.
Well, if being able to afford this is a problem, you might want to talk to your teacher privately about it.
Okay.
So, what other personal things do you think you should store?
Hamburgers.
I don't know if hamburgers would keep, but you're right. Food is definitely very high on the list. You might also want to store old shoes, a sweater, maybe an old jacket, something like that. Even a toy or a stuffed animal could bring you a lot of comfort after an earthquake.
Stuffed animal?
That's no joke. It'll help you feel better and let you be less scared. Now, this is the most important thing we're going to tell you today. Whatever you do, don't run. Because when the ground is moving and the building is swaying, you're going to get hurt if you try to run.
With all the excitement, that would be hard to do, but I'll try.
Good, it's important. Now, what do you think is the most important thing you'll need after a big quake?
I bet it's water.
That's right.
Water? Why is water the most important?
Because you have to have it to live, and underground water pipes might be broken after a quake.
Yeah, you can go for days without food. You wouldn't like it, but you could do it. But you can't go very long at all without something to drink. And you're going to have to talk with your teacher about how you're going to store all that water.
How much water should we store?
Well, about a couple of gallons for every person in your class, although I know that's not going to be easy.
Sure won't, because that's a lot of water.
And won't it break during the quake?
Well, you have to make sure you put it in containers that won't break, and you can't place it on high shelves or below anything that might fall on it either.
Remind your folks at home how to store water correctly, and make sure you have enough of it.
Even for Jasper, my dog?
That's right. Let's not forget about our pets.
And you'll have to store at least 3 gallons for every person at home, too, because you might not be able to get fresh water from your sink for several days.
What if I'm outside when the earthquake happens?
Yeah, what if I'm walking to school?
If you're out on the sidewalk, the first thing to remember is don't run, and no bike riding. And look around. If you're near a building, be careful. Buildings are one of the biggest hazards to stay away from.
Why? Because of the windows?
That's right. Remember what the windows looked like in your classroom?
Yeah,
It
glass
was a
all
real
over the
mess.
place.
Well, the windows from tall buildings can fall too. And watch out for power lines and light poles because they can fall.
What do we do about fallen wires?
Nothing. You should stay away from any wires you see on the ground, even when we don't have an earthquake. Fallen electrical wires can be very dangerous because you can't see electricity. So be careful.
Well, where should we go if we're outside?
Probably the best place to go if you're outside is just down on the grass.
But stay away from things that might fall on you.
And don't run.
Hey, you guys are starting to catch on.
Just remember, you don't have to be scared if you're prepared.
Right. So if I'm on my way to school and there's an earthquake, where should I go afterward?
Well, unless you're very close to home and you're sure there's somebody there waiting for you, probably your best bet is school, because there are people there who know you and are going to be able to take care of you.
So what else can you think of that you need to do to be prepared?
What about hazard hunts at home?
Hey, that's a good idea. Let's go.
Wait a minute. No littering.
Now that's
as rad as they come. This is my bed.
Do my mom and dad know about hazard hunts?
Probably not, but now that you do, you can show them how it's done. For example, be aware of heavy objects over your bed.
You mean like posters?
Well, posters are usually all right in an earthquake, but if you have pictures with a lot of glass, you might want to move them, at least away from your bed. And you want to get your mom and dad to help you anchor them to the wall with...
Wire.
Or Velcro.
That's right.
What if I'm in bed when the earthquake starts?
Just stay there and pull the covers over your head. If you try to get out of the bed, you might get hurt when it moves.
Like this?
Right. If the bed moves, that's okay because you're on top of the soft mattress. And stay completely under the covers so that if there is broken glass, it probably won't even scratch you.
But if there is glass, how do I get out of bed?
Put on some shoes before you get out of bed.
In fact, a lot of people keep shoes and a flashlight right next to their bed. In fact, you might want to put this in a bag and attach it to something because otherwise it's not going to be where you left it after the earthquake.
What if I'm not in bed?
If you're home during an earthquake, do just like in school. Get under something strong and hold on.
And if there's nothing nearby for you to get under and hold on to, you might just have time to kneel down and hold something over your head. But don't expect to be able to take more than 1 or 2 steps. Jerry, let's go take a look at other parts of the house.
Good idea.
Now, if you're in a hallway or stairway, you could get down and brace yourself like this so you don't get shaken anywhere. But don't be under any pictures that might fall on you.
You know, you could practice anywhere you might be. Or at least you can look around and think, what would be the safest thing to do? But remember, no running and 1 or 2 steps to safety.
Now, there is one exception.
That's right.
This place is almost always dangerous in an earthquake, and that's the kitchen.
Hey, this is my house.
We know.
So, I bet the stove makes this place dangerous during an earthquake.
Nah, it's the refrigerator.
How about the dishes?
Or Mom's knives.
Those things are all right. If something's cooking, it could burn you or start a fire. There are plenty of loose objects that can fly right across the kitchen. Glass can break and fall. Doors can open and sharp objects can come out. Even the refrigerator can fall over.
The refrigerator? I thought things might fall out, but it's too heavy to move.
Not for an earthquake. It doesn't matter how big or heavy it is. If it isn't fastened or anchored, an earthquake will move it.
Absolutely true. But there's a special hazard in most kitchens, the gas. What do you think would happen if the stove slid across the room and the gas pipeline broke?
You could have a big fire.
Right. Now, there are a lot of things we can do to keep these problems from becoming hazards. But our advice is, if you're in the kitchen when the earthquake starts, just get out.
Should we run?
No, just move quickly. But expect to be able to take no more than a couple of steps.
What would work well here with these cupboards?
Latches.
Correct. Latches or bungee cords, used properly, can prevent glasses and dishes from falling and breaking on the floor.
They would also protect any valuables the family might have.
That's a good idea.
Let's see what's in the other room.
So what about after the earthquake? Where should we go?
That's very important, and you need to talk with Mom and Dad about this. Some families have decided they'll meet out in the backyard. Some have agreed they'll meet by the mailbox. But if everybody is earthquake safe, whether at school or at home, then you don't have to be worried if you can't be with them for a few days.
Well, if I don't see them, I'll just call them up on the telephone.
You probably won't be able to. Most phones won't be working.
How could you tell when an earthquake is coming?
Well, you can't know for sure, but you probably will get a little warning that one has already started. Remember that October earthquake we had? Do you remember how you first knew there was an earthquake?
Well, there was a rattling noise.
Yeah. Things started jiggling, clattering.
Good memory. And then came the jolt, right?
Depending on how close you are to the epicenter, which is on the fault line at the center of the quake, the closer you are, the less time there is between the rattling and the jolt. There may only be 1 or 2 seconds. That's why you have to take cover and protect yourself the instant you think there's an earthquake.
Okay, now let's practice. I'll give you a few moments to look around. All right. Ready? Earthquake. That was great, guys. You learned your lesson well. We're proud of you.
Now it's time to get back to the office. We've got to finish that earthquake report.
Oh, you're right, Jerry. Listen, why don't you say goodbye to Chippendale?
Bye.
So long.
See ya. Had a great time. This is some serious magical dust. Serious.
Remember, unlike some other places in the world, here in California, you're usually safest inside, indoors, or even in the car.
Of course, you'll be a little scared. Everybody will be. And you should talk to somebody about it. It'll help you feel better. But that's why you're learning about earthquakes. We want to ask the questions of how, what, and where, so that we'll be prepared with the answers. Where to go, what to store for use later, what's going to happen, and how we can protect ourselves.
I know you're going to help your teachers, and I hope you'll also help your moms, dads, brothers, and sisters to get prepared at home. And don't forget about hazard hunts and family drills.
There's absolutely no doubt we will get to use our preparation someday. Some may ask, what if we don't have another earthquake?
Well, it's an absolute scientific certainty that we will. The only questions are when, where, and how big.
Remember, you don't have to be scared if you're first prepared.
Oh, and Christopher,